Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. If you're tuning in because you're thinking about adding livestock to a small farm, maybe deciding between goats or chickens, well, you've definitely come to the right place. We know you want good info.
Exactly. And that's what we're aiming for today. We've spent time digging through various articles, some research too, to really give you a solid look at this whole goats versus chickens question.
Yeah, our mission here is basically to pull out the key insights, the pros, the cons, to help you figure out what makes sense for your farm, your specific situation.
And that's the crucial part, isn't it? There isn't one single better answer here. It really, really depends on your own setup.
Like how much space you have, right? And your budget, who you think you'll sell to.
Your resources, your long-term goals for the farm, all of that plays a huge role.
Okay, so let's dive in. First big hurdle for many people getting started. What's the initial investment look like?
Well, if we look at goats first, they generally mean a higher upfront cost. A big piece of that is fencing. You need really secure fencing.
The escape artists.
Precisely. They're notorious for it, and our sources definitely back that up. Plus, they need enough room to graze. And if you're thinking about breeding, good quality breeding stock can cost a fair bit.
Right, yeah, you can't just string up some chicken wire and call it a day with goats. So what about chickens then? Are they easier to start with financially?
Typically, yes. Much lower initial investment. Basic coops aren't terribly expensive, and chicks themselves are pretty cheap.
Okay.
So, yeah, a lot of the material we looked at flags this. It makes chickens really accessible, especially if you're just starting out with livestock.
Okay, so goats, bigger initial spend, especially on fencing.
Sure.
Chickens, more budget-friendly up front. Makes sense. So after you've made that investment, how long until you might actually see some money coming back? Let's talk ROI.
Yeah, return on investment. And this is a really key difference.
Yeah.
Goats generally take longer, much longer.
How long are we talking?
You're usually looking at, maybe 12 to 18 months before they're market weight for meat or mature enough to be producing milk reliably.
Wow, okay. A year to a year and a half.
Yeah, so it's definitely a longer game with goats. You need that patience. But the payoff potentially is those premium prices we can talk about later.
Okay, so patience required for goats. What about the chickens? Faster turnaround.
Oh, much faster. Broilers, the meat birds, they can be ready in just like 6 to 8 weeks.
6 to 8 weeks.
Yep. And your layers, the hens for eggs, they usually start laying around 5 or 6 months old. So that quicker cycle really helps with cash flow.
Big difference there. Weeks versus months or even over a year.
Yeah.
That could definitely sway someone depending on their needs. Okay, so you've got your animals, they're producing. Who buys this stuff? What's the market like?
It's quite different. Goat products, milk, meat, they tend to be more of a niche market.
Niche, okay.
But within that niche, the demand can be really strong for, high quality premium stuff. Think specialty food shops, farmers markets, maybe people looking for dairy alternatives.
Right, like people with cow's milk allergies or something.
Exactly. So there's definitely a dedicated customer base there, often willing to pay a bit more.
So maybe fewer customers overall, but potentially higher value per customer. How does chicken compare on the demand side?
Chickens are, mainstream. Eggs and chicken meat are staples for so many households. The demand is just consistently high, very broad appeal across the board.
Yeah, you're not really searching for customers for eggs and chicken, are you?
Not usually, no. You're tapping into a huge established market. It's reliable.
Okay, niche versus broad appeal. Interesting trade-off. Now let's get down to brass tacks. Profit margins. What can you actually expect to make per unit, more or less?
So with goats, because you often get those premium prices we mentioned, the per unit profit margin can be quite good, higher often than chickens.
Even with the longer wait time?
Yes, because the price point for, say, artisan goat cheese or pasture-raised goat meat can be significantly higher. But again, it takes longer to get those returns.
So potentially more profit per goat, but you wait longer for it. What's the chicken profit picture?
Chickens tend to have more moderate profit margins per unit. An egg is an egg, a pound of chicken is a pound of chicken, generally speaking, price-wise.
Lower price per item, maybe?
Often, yes, compared to premium goat products. But the key advantage is the speed. Those faster production cycles mean you can reinvest quicker, and the sheer volume and steady demand create a more consistent income stream, even if the margin on each individual egg or bird is a bit lower.
Right. Faster turnover, steady demand.
Yeah.
Adds up over time. Okay, another really practical point, especially for small farms.
Yeah.
Space. How much land do these animals actually need?
Goats, they need a moderate amount of space. mainly for grazing, for browsing really. But what's interesting is that sources suggest with good management, rotational grazing, maybe some extra feed, they can actually do quite well even on fairly limited acreage.
So you don't necessarily need like 50 acres for a few goats.
No, not necessarily. Good management is key. Chickens, though, they're on the other end of the spectrum. Very low space requirements. I mean, you can raise them successfully in pretty small coops with attached runs. This makes them ideal for, urban farming situations or just a backyard setup if you only have an acre or two.
Okay, definite advantage for chickens if space is tight. What about feeding them? That's an ongoing cost that can really bite.
Absolutely. Feed costs are critical. Goats often come out ahead here, potentially having lower feed costs.
Okay.
Because they're natural browsers. They eat leaves, twigs, weeds, brush, a much wider variety of vegetation than chickens. If you have that kind of diverse forage on your property, it can seriously cut down your need for purchased feed.
So they can kind of find their own food to a larger extent.
To a degree, yes, which can be a big saving. Chickens, on the other hand, have more moderate feed costs, but they generally need specialized feed.
Like pellets or crumbles.
Exactly. Formulated feeds that give them the specific balanced nutrition they need. For layers, it's about egg production consistency and quality. For broilers, it's about efficient growth, so you're usually buying bag feed regularly.
Okay, so goats might save you on feed if your land suits them. Chickens likely need a more consistent feed bill. Let's talk about looking after them day to day. Ease of management.
Management. Goats, I'd say, are moderate. We keep coming back to it, but that secure fencing is job number one. It's non-negotiable.
Because they'll test it constantly.
They will. And you also need some specific knowledge about their health. Things like hoof trimming, potential parasite issues, knowing what to look for. It requires a bit more vigilance, perhaps.
So definitely learning curve there.
Oh.
Are chickens simpler?
Generally, yes. Chickens are often considered easier to manage, especially once you have a good setup and routine. Their basic needs, food, water, a safe coop, some space to peck around, are fairly straightforward. Good biosecurity is important, keeping things clean to prevent disease, but the day-to-day can be less demanding than goats.
Right. Maybe less likely to be found on the neighbor's roof.
Hopefully. So yeah, for a complete beginner, chickens might feel a bit less daunting initially.
Okay. Now, beyond just meat or milk or eggs, can you get other things from these animals? Product diversification.
Goats actually score pretty high here. Obviously, milk and meat. But also, selling breeding stock duelings, bucklings can be a good income stream.
Selling baby goats, basically.
Exactly. And then there's that interesting angle of using them for weed and brush control. Rent-a-goat services are a real thing in some areas. Targeted grazing.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Turning a chore into an income stream. What about chickens, beyond eggs and meat?
Chickens offer, I'd say, moderate diversification. Eggs and meat are the main ones, of course, but their manure is fantastic fertilizer, really valuable for gardens or pastures.
Chicken manure, gold for gardeners.
Absolutely. And some people use the feathers for crafts or fly tying, things like that, but it's maybe less diverse overall than the potential with goats.
Okay, so goats maybe offer a few more varied options there. Let's talk health, because sick animals are stressful and costly. Disease resistance, general care needs.
Yeah, super important. Goats have, let's say, moderate disease resistance. They're prone to certain things, particularly internal parasites like gastrointestinal worms. Coccidiosis is another common one, especially in young goats. And there are more serious viral things like PPR in some regions.
So what's the management strategy?
It's about prevention. Good pasture rotation helps with parasites. Keeping things clean helps with coccidiosis. Regular deworming protocols are often necessary, vaccinations too. And again, secure fencing helps prevent contact with unknown animals. Selecting for hardier genetics helps too.
So proactive health management is key. Chickens, are they tougher or more fragile?
Chickens are maybe low to moderate on resistance. They have their own set of potential problems. Avian flu is the big scary one everyone knows, but also things like Newcastle disease, Marek's disease, and they can also get coccidiosis.
So similar threats in some ways.
Some overlap, yeah, but different specifics. For chickens, routine vaccinations are often recommended. Keeping the coop clean and dry is vital, and practicing good biosecurity, limiting visitors, cleaning boots, that kind of thing is really crucial to prevent bringing diseases in.
Okay, so different diseases, but proactive care needed for both. What about risks to us? Zoonotic diseases. Anything that can pass from them to humans?
Yes, that's always a consideration with livestock. With goats, there's a moderate risk. Things like brucellosis, Q fever, ORF. It's mainly through contact, especially during milking or kidding. Good hygiene is essential.
Washing hands, being careful.
Absolutely. With chickens, the risk is probably higher, statistically speaking, mainly from Salmonella and Campylobacter. This is mostly related to food safety handling raw meat or eggs. Thorough cooking and careful kitchen hygiene are paramount.
Right, the warnings you always hear about washing hands after handling raw chicken.
Okay.
What about antibiotic use? Is one animal type more likely to need them? And what about resistance?
That's a growing concern, AMR antimicrobial resistance. Generally, in small farm settings, goats tend to require fewer antibiotics than, say, animals in very intensive systems. This leads to a lower risk of contributing to AMR.
And chickens?
Chickens, especially in huge commercial operations, sometimes receive antibiotics prophylactically to prevent disease, which definitely contributes to AMR concerns. However, on a small farm, if you manage them well, keep things clean, you might need antibiotics much less frequently, or hopefully not at all, but the potential for higher use might be there compared to well-managed goats on browse.
Okay, something to be mindful of.
Okay.
Looking longer term now, how productive are they over time? What kind of output can you expect year after year?
Goats, well, milk production is pretty stable during their lactation, which is roughly, say, 130, 140 days after kidding. Reproduction is also fairly steady, maybe 1 to 3 kids every 150 days or so, breed depending. And there's ongoing work to make meat production more efficient, too.
So steady, but perhaps not explosive production.
Kind of, yeah. Steady and sustainable if managed well. Chickens, though, in terms of sheer volume, often have higher productivity, especially layers. A good hen can lay, 250, maybe 300 eggs a year.
An egg almost every day.
Pretty close for good breeds. And broilers, as we said, grow incredibly fast, 6 to 8 weeks. Modern breeding and feed science have really pushed chicken productivity way up over the decades.
Okay, so chickens are definitely the volume producers, faster cycles. We touched on this, but let's be direct. For a total beginner, zero livestock experience, which one is usually the better starting point?
Based on everything, ease of care, lower space needs, the dual-purpose nature, the reliable market chickens are usually the recommendation for beginners.
A gentler introduction to livestock?
Generally, yes. The learning curve might feel a little less steep.
But what if someone just really wants goats? Maybe they love the idea of goat cheese or have brushy land. Are there beginner-friendly goats?
There are. Nigerian dwarf goats often get mentioned. They're smaller, generally have a really friendly, docile temperament, which is nice for handling, and they still produce good milk.
So a smaller, friendlier option.
Exactly. But even with Nigerian dwarfs, you still need that absolutely rock-solid fencing. That requirement doesn't change.
Got it. Fencing is the goat mantra. Okay. ROI again. If getting some money back relatively quickly is the absolute top priority, which animal wins?
Chickens. Hands down.
Yeah.
The fast growth of broilers, layers starting in under 6 months, combined with that lower initial cost and ready market, it just means you see returns much, much faster. The reinvestment cycles are quicker.
So chickens for quick cash flow. But what if the goal is maximizing profit over, say, 5 or 10 years, even if it means waiting longer initially?
Then goats start to look more appealing again. That potential for higher profit margins on premium, niche products, cheese, milk, meat, breeding stock. Maybe those grazing services could lead to greater overall profitability in the long run, even with the slower start.
Interesting. So short-term cash, chickens. Potential long-term higher margin. Goats. Okay, let's zoom out. What are the lasting benefits, the long-term advantages of having these animals integrated into a small farm? Goats first.
Long-term with goats. Well, that sustained profitability from niche markets is a big one. Their versatility is key to using them for land management, that adaptability to maybe less than perfect pasture. And if you manage your breeding well, they offer sustainable reproduction, meaning you're not constantly buying in new animals. They become part of the farm cycle.
Integrated, sustainable, nice.
Yeah.
And the long-term pluses for chickens.
For chickens, it's often about that consistent, reliable income stream from eggs. It might not be huge per egg, but it's steady. Their lower maintenance, once established, is a long-term benefit too. And those rapid ROI cycles for broilers can continue to be an advantage year after year. Plus, their suitability for small spaces remains a constant benefit for urban or small acreage farms.
Reliable income, easy keepers, fit small spaces.
Got it. Now, just really quick, how do these two stack up against maybe quail or rabbits or pigs? Just for perspective.
Sure, quick comparison. Quail. Even smaller space needs than chickens, potentially even faster ROI. Niche market for tiny eggs and meat. Rabbits breed very quickly. Efficient feed converters. Niche market again for meat, sometimes fur. Pigs. Strong pork demand. Efficient feed conversion, but take longer to mature than chickens or quail, and definitely need strong fencing, maybe more than chickens.
Okay, that helps place them. So we've covered a ton of ground here. Let's try and wrap this up for our listeners trying to make this choice.
Yeah, the bottom line really is it boils down to your farm, your goals, your resources. There's truly no single right answer that fits everyone.
Right. If you need money back sooner rather than later, if your budget is tight to start, or if you just want to sell into a big, easy market, then chickens. They probably tick more boxes for you. Definitely leans towards chickens in that case. But if you're playing the longer game, aiming for potentially higher profits per animal by finding or creating a niche market, and you're ready for that bigger initial investment, especially in fencing and maybe slightly more complex management,
Then goats might be the way to go.
then goats could be a really rewarding choice, yes. It aligns with a different set of goals and resources.
So folks really need to sit down and think. How much space do I really have? How much time can I realistically commit each day? What's my startup budget look like?
Right.
And who am I actually going to sell these products to in my area? What's my vision?
Exactly. Asking those honest questions is key. Which actually brings us to a final thought, something for you to really mull over as you weigh this up.
Yeah, here's something to chew on. Try thinking beyond just the most obvious products. The eggs, the meat, the milk. What other value could these animals bring specifically to your farm, in your market?
Could you, for instance, leverage goats for targeted weed control contracts in your community? Or maybe develop really unique artisan goat milk soaps or cheeses that nobody else nearby is doing?
Right. Think outside the standard box. Look for those unique value streams that fit your specific situation and skills.
Absolutely. That kind of creative thinking can sometimes unlock the most profitable and satisfying path for your small farm.
Well, that's our deep dive for today. We genuinely hope this has helped clarify things as you consider goats versus chickens for your small farm. Thanks for joining us.
Hope it was helpful. Until next time.
I tried to train my goats to do yoga, but they just kept saying no. Asterisk. And that's a wrap on today's episode of the Overflow Podcast, where we talked livestock, life, and why goats have zero respect for personal space. If you enjoyed the episode, be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe, because if you don't, a chicken will find your IP address. Got questions? Leave a comment. Got cows? Send milk. And remember, don't put all your eggs in one basket unless it's a really sturdy, well-ventilated basket approved by your local farm safety board. Until next time, keep it pasture-raised, and for the love of stop letting the alpacas run the group chat. Catch you next time. Farm